Okay, cool. So it's been a while since I've done one of these, and WWE recently just gave me the perfect opportunity to do this by giving me 5 fights for Braun Strowman. These, of course, are 5 fights that the E can actually pick people from, so you're not going to see Abyss. Sorry. They didn't throw in Batista either. Maybe I'll do those as separate ones. As you can tell, I've got my criteria there. Hopefully it still looks okay. I haven't done this for several months. I've got strength, speed, endurance, toughness, striking, grappling. And as always, the person with the higher amount is the one who would be the person victorious. Again, most of this is looking at the majority of things that come from a kayfabe perspective, some things not from a kayfabe perspective, so you can just kind of take it from there. So we'll get right into this. Who has a greater strength advantage? Now, those of you who are unaware, Braun is billed at 6'8", 385. Andre, 7'4", 520. So this is a man who is, 8 inches taller and 140 pounds more. So, strength. I'm going to give this to Andre. I think if you look at just the overall size and raw power of Andre, he was a huge individual. Taking nothing away from Strowman. He is, of course, a world champion powerlifter. But he's taking on a person who just has a near natural level of strength. Speed. And endurance, to give both those to Braun. Braun is wicked fast for a big man. Way faster than Andre. Andre's a larger, slower plotting individual. And for endurance, Andre couldn't make a long match. There's actually, if you watch WWE Storytime, you'll actually hear people talk about, then Andre fell asleep on me. It's like, oh wow, okay. Toughness. I give it to Andre, predominantly because everything that he had to deal with was rough. I read some of his road stories, and he couldn't fit in bathrooms. I think Hulk Hogan mentions a time when Andre had to use the bed as a toilet and then wiped himself effectively with the curtains. Because everything he did was rough on this man. So he had a definite huge level of toughness. Plus the fact that he was just, everything about him ached. He was a large individual, took a tremendous amount of abuse in the ring, and was just, his whole life was difficult. Yes, I know that we've seen Strowman get lit up by a kendo stick, and it looks wicked, but not to the level so we've seen Andre endure. Striking, well, I'll just go through these guys real quick. From a striking standpoint, Andre, massive hands. When he did a chop, to put this into perspective, his ring finger, the ring you put on a ring finger, you could pass an egg through. So look at your finger. Now think of an egg. His finger was the width of an egg. So when he slapped you with effectively like a half dozen eggs attached to a palm. That's insane how striking him when it comes to grappling. Braun has more grapples, but given the size of Andre can't help Braun do any of these moves. That's why when he got slammed, it was a big deal. But I think, well, Braun works with Big Show. Big Show's a lot more agile. Big Show can actually work with him to help him go through moves. But he's not going to get that with Andre. Andre's going to be a large man. He's going to have to try to muscle up. And given the overall size and weight distribution, Andre is tough to muscle up at the size of Braun Strowman. For submission. Remember when Braun started, he used well, I think it's like a front face choke. He actually used like an arm triangle choke. What's his finisher? High flying, you know what? We've seen Braun come off the middle rope, top rope. He has a sick running drop kick. Oh, with the crowd, into the last three, pretty quick. People loved Andre. why he was one of the first massive attractions. That means his ring psychology was kind of poor because he was a large, slow, plodding guy. He pretty much got you in the corner and then just leaned on you. Where Strowman has such a great wow factor because it's a combination of his speed, of his power game, of that he can get off his feet and he can fly. And then for mic work, Andre cut some decent promos, but I think if you put these two guys on the stick together, I think Braun suitably rips Andre apart on the mic. Andre had that great slow, I will kill you hard, and just that really deep draw to his voice. But with English not being his primary language, he was French. Certain things just didn't come off as natural as what we see with where Braun Strowman is currently. So when it comes to Andre and Braun, I think Braun takes it. It's an amazing fight, and towards the end of Andre's career, he was all putting guys over. So I could easily see Andre being someone who would put over Braun Strowman. Then they picked Abdullah the Butcher. So again, Braun, 6'8", 385. Abdullah, 6 foot, 360. So that's... If you never saw an Abdullah the Butcher match, he's got his head is striated from all the times he played himself. He was hardcore before hardcore even had a name. Very much known for using spikes, knives, a kitchen fork, kendo sticks. He bled, and he would stick you like a pig to make you bleed. So, let's get right into this one. Strength, speed, endurance, toughness. I'm going through some of these pretty quickly because there's 5 of them. I don't want each of them to be 5-6 minute long segments. Abdullah was not a strong guy. You can look at him, he's got that viscera body build going to him. He also was not a fast guy. His matches were brutal, but they didn't go very long. He got winded pretty quick. That being said, dude was a brutal man. Not saying that Braun probably couldn't hang with him, the brutality level, where Abdullah was able to go was insane. So I think that Abdullah could easily absorb a tremendous amount of punch, because that's what he did. Night in, night out, he was someone who got stuck, bled. He wrestled a style that degrades your body. But I think physically, that's his main attribute, is he could take a tremendous amount of abuse. Striking. Probably saying, why am I giving it to Abdullah? When you're primarily known for wielding a kitchen fork or a spike, I don't care how good you are at punching somebody. If you're comparing punching with your fist versus stabbing someone in the head with a kitchen fork, I mean, the ability to strike with utensils is infinitely more devastating. Grappling. Smith. Abdullah wasn't known for flying. He wasn't a grappler. He had no real submissions. He was the stab guy. I wish there was more things to say about Abdullah. I know he's still around. If British Vader to find this out, he would probably threaten me. But there really wasn't a lot that... I don't say he didn't do a lot, because what he did was plenty. You see a lot of his older matches, you see a guy who was just... I almost wish we could have seen Abdullah in his prime versus New Jack in his prime. Because that would have been just a bloodbath of a match. Abdullah was just nasty. But that's what made him his money. Over at the crowd... I'll just finish with an hour real quickly so I can just get through. Over the crowd, I think Braun currently, crowd loves him. His music hits, it's bruh, and the crowd loves it. They go nuts for it. Abdullah's ring psychology was very simple. He was a scarred man who was going to scar you. Runs with a fork, or a spike, or a kendo stick, or a cheese grater, or anything you get. Pizza cutter. And mic work, yeah, Abdullah, he was the hardcore wrestler of his era. The hardest of hardcore. There are people who say he wasn't even a wrestler. He was just a masochist who people paid money to see him bludgeon somebody and stab people. I think Braun makes short work of this guy, especially in the current E era, because Abdullah couldn't do anything. If you put Braun back in the era of Abdullah the Butcher, I think Abdullah gets in some good shots on him, but I think that Braun takes him down fairly handily. Here's my match. I'm going to tell you why this is my match. Vader built at 6'5", 450. But wickedly skilled. I tried to find the best photo I could. I loved the Vader headgear. I was watching the Sting documentary on the network, and my wife was like, "Who's that Vader?" I'm like, that's Vader. I said, okay. And she saw him do a Vader bomb. She's like, "Wow." And then he saw him hit a picture-perfect moonsault. She was like, "How does he move like that?" I'm like he was an amazing professional wrestler. He's a tremendous athlete. And the E wanted to call him Macedon and take away all the prestige that was Vader. So here we go. I have no problem giving the strength edge to Braun. And that's because Braun, from a powerlifter, we've seen him do things with larger guys. Vader was one of the bigger men of his era. So he never wrestled people who were smaller than him. He'd wrestle someone like Sting or Flair. Those were his bigger matches. He was normally the bigger guy who worked with a smaller guy. Where Braun is a big dude who works with smaller guys, and he works with bigger guys like the Big Show. I'm probably going to hear it for this one. I'm going to speed advantage to Vader. As much as Braun is steadily fast for a man of his size, Vader, I don't say Vader's just a shade quicker. Vader in his prime. Because you would see what Vader would do, and you go, "There's no way a man of that size is that fast." You know, he's got about 70, 80 pounds on Braun. A guy with 400 pounds should not move as fast as Vader does. Endurance. Vader's from the era going to Broadway. He wrestled really long matches. And he took on guys who were just flat out endurance hounds. And he could hang with them. He had a ridiculous level of cardio. I think that he actually could probably outlast Braun when he was in his prime. Toughness. This goes back to, I think it was Stan Hansen, where he's fighting Vader in the corner, and he plunks out Vader's eye, and Vader pops that sucker back in. Period. That puts you in a whole different league. You know, you get like a piece of grit in your eye, and you're like, "Oh, it sucks. It's so painful." Now imagine having to wear like the weird leather mask that he wore. Move it to the side, take your thumb and shoot your eyeball back in to your head. And then you keep on fighting. And you keep on fighting. Striking. When Vader got you in the corner and just hammered on you with those wicked forearm shots, I think that the way that he hit those forearm shots, the fact that he wore the big heavy gloves in case he accidentally connected with you, he didn't knock you out. I think that he probably takes it when it comes to just the raw striking ability with those heavy, heavy forearms. Grappling. Now I know Vader didn't use that much in the way of power bombs, didn't use it much in the way of slams. So I think you do see a little bit more from Braun. I think you do see Braun utilize things like the choke slam, the reverse choke slam, running power slam. I think he's got a few more grappling moves in his arsenal than what you saw Vader do. Vader had the standard body slams. I don't recall him really using moves like power bombs or choke slams as much. And for submission, again, I'm going back to the standing triangle choke that you had from Braun versus Vader. He's using the bear hug, but his bear hug really wasn't a finish. It was more of a wear down move. Where Braun initially had the standing triangle to be his method of attack, high flying. One of the few times I'll probably give a high flying edge to someone who's not Braun Strowman. Man, Vader's Vader bomb and his near picture perfect moonsault. Man, if you haven't seen Vader work, seriously, you need to hop on the network, watch some Vader matches, and you'll be like, a big man moved like this. Yes, a big man moved like this. Over at the crowd, I'd probably say current Braun is probably a little bit more over than Vader. A little bit more over than Vader. And that's probably because they did a good job on having him fight Roman, and they're building him in such a way that he's just an absolute monster. Ring psychology? I'm going to give that to Vader. A lot of that's because we got to see more ring psychology from Vader. You know, when Vader wrestled guys who were faster, he would wear them down more. If you got a guy who was, not as fast, his game was always trying to go, if I get you in a corner, you can't move. And then I just wail on you until I wear you down. He was also very good at being able to hit those big spots where you go for the moonsault, but you knew he was going to miss, but allowed to get the good babyface comeback. He really did a solid job when it came to really pulling the crowd more into the match. A little bit more than what you see with Strowman. And then for mic work, Vader actually cut slightly better promos. Vader normally had mouthpiece with him, but people tend to forget he actually was a solid promo. Which he didn't need to be because he was this massive guy who was a tremendous athlete. So far I think Braun would have defeated Andre. He would have done a good job against Abdullah. But I think Vader's probably one of the guys on that list I think could beat Braun Strowman. I think that's more because what helps Braun is Braun's athleticism. I think Vader probably matches him or easily exceeds him at some levels of athleticism. And I think that these two guys are probably going to have a tremendous match. But I do think that Vader's got just a slight edge when it comes to facing someone like Braun Strowman. Sid. Ironically, Sid, 6'9", 317. It's one of the few people who's actually smaller. Well, he's taller, but he's noticeably thinner. I'm getting close to 20-minute mark, so let's do this pretty quick. Given the size of Strowman, definite strength advantage. Strowman's significantly bigger than Sid. It's also very fast. Sid was not a fast guy in the ring. Sid was known for having longer matches. And he took a lot more brutality. Most of it was just due to the era in which he wrestled. He had a much rougher style of in-ring competition. That being said, you could easily argue both those points back and forth pretty quickly. I'll get through this series pretty quick. If you haven't watched some of... Well, actually, going back to Toughness 2. He was one of the few people to kick out of Hulkamania era Hulk Hogan leg drop. Because there's a mistake and Papa Shango never ran down to stop it. Psycho Sid, he was your punches, clotheslines, and your big boots. He was a standard big man. His punches never looked really good. And his big boot was normally to about the guy's chest. He never got up really high. where I think Strowman's clothesline looks significantly more impactful. When Strowman punches, it looks like he's trying to take your head off. I think he's got a better striking game. From a grappling perspective, I think Sid takes it. Sid, chokeslam. Sid, powerbomb. He had a nice chokeslam and a nice powerbomb. Comparing that versus Strowman's use of the chokeslam and the running power slam. I think that since Sid's powerbomb was during a time when very few people did a powerbomb, and his actually looked pretty devastating. Especially when he did to somebody inside like a War Games cage, where he'd slam you head first into the cage and then drill you onto your shoulders. Submission, not Sid's forte. So again, I'm going back to the triangle arm choke. High flying. Sid tried that once. Tried a top rope move. Didn't end well. Did not end well at all. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. This will be pretty quick. Over with the crowd. I think Braun is definitely more over than Sid would have been in almost any of his eras. Whether it's Sid Justice, Psycho Sid. That based on ring psychology. Psycho Sid was great because he played it like an absolute madman. And even his promos showed that he was a madman. And that's why mic work goes to Braun. Whether it was having a live promo, this is Sid, and then saying, "Can we start again?" And then going, "No, Sid, we're live." Or I'm trying to remember the exact lines of this promo. Oh, he was facing off against Kevin Nash. And I think that the line was, "I'm twice the man that you think I am, and I have half the brain that you think I do." That having been said, I think that these two guys, on paper, it looks interesting because you have two guys about the same size. But I think Strowman is just a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. I think his overall game is superior to that of Sid. Oh, sorry. Abyss didn't make the list from the WWE. Maybe at a later time. The moderate Khali. I mean, he already faced Out of the Giant in this lineup, so why not the moderate Khali? Alright, Khali. 7'1", 347. Build weight. So again, taller, lighter. So let's go right through this. Strength. I'm going to go through the physical ones real quick. This video is kind of dragging on. I think that Braun is probably significantly stronger than Khali. I think Khali had an advantage just given his overall just massive size. But I'm trying to think of something that he would have done that would have been really impressive. And I can't really think of anything. I mean, he didn't really chokeslam anybody who was of massive size. His Khali's speed, he's slower than Dana Brooke. I mean, you've watched the video where they're all running down the ring and Khali is walking and he's being passed by people. Repeatedly passed by people. Khali also had severe knee injury, so he couldn't be very fast. Khali had horrible cardio. And his toughness really wasn't there. Most times because if you could survive the initial onslaught from Khali, you pretty much won the match. Because he was going to get tired, he was going to get worn out, he couldn't move very fast, he was highly limited in his overall size and abilities. Okay, trying to think kind of fast because we're getting like the 26-minute mark and I'll be done. Striking. Khali had that chop, which probably was his finisher. And it made sense that a man of his size taking his encyclopedia-sized hand and slamming it into your skull would be enough to knock somebody unconscious. So you got a guy lifting his arm up, so it means from where his hand was, probably about 10 feet in the air, coming down on top of your head. Kayfabe, it worked. Khali, I remember the double choke bomb, that's about it. So obviously you'd see more grappling moves from Braun Strowman. Submission. Yes, Braun did have the standing triangle, but you had effectively the skull crush of the Great Khali. Something Khali, since he used that submission more often, in fact they had these giant hands that actually could almost fully engulf an opponent's head with his hands, would make sense that he would probably have a submission edge. High flying? No, Khali wasn't flying very well. He almost never left his feet. And we'll finish this off pretty quick. I'm thinking of whenever Khali was over with the crowd, that was not in India. Can't think of any time. When the Great Khali came out to help Jinder Mahal defeat Randy Orton in a Punjabi prison match, crowd didn't pop. Khali had zero ring psychology skills. Suddenly he became kind of comedic, and he learned how to dance, kind of, did the Khali shuffle, and he had horrible mic skills. So if you put the Great Khali in the ring with Braun Strowman, Braun destroys him. Handily. Easily. Great Khali would show up with that physical, imposing force that Braun just tears through. So, let's go back through what the E had. I think he decimates the Great Khali. More competitive than Psycho Sid, but I think he definitely does take it. Vader is the one that I think, just given his era and his skill set, would be a real problem for Braun, and has a good chance of beating him. Abdullah, yeah, Braun takes him pretty easily. And Andre would be a challenge for Strowman, but I think that Andre would easily be someone who would put him over.